She who thrives. Phoenix rising. The true me. The ups and downs, crazy in life. So take this journey with me. She who thrives. Yeah. Good morning, sunshines. Thank you for everyone tuning in and going on YouTube to watch me. Welcome to She Who Thrives, a podcast about embracing the grind of life while learning to shine through it. I'm your host, Janelle Borrero. And before I begin, I want to ask you to please subscribe, share, follow, rate, and review. Yes, I'm reading all the reviews. I really appreciate your love and support that you guys have been giving me till today, and it's greatly appreciated. And now I am going to introduce you to someone that I've been knowing since I was probably 15. Her name, growing up, we called her baby, but her name is Vanessa Araque. I said it right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. That wasn't her name back then, her last name back then. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So this podcast is being filmed in Florida, and I've said it in all the podcasts. I am from Chicago, Illinois, Humboldt Park area, and I went to Roberto Clemente High School. And this is where I met Vanessa, and we started hanging out and being cool with each other when we were in pom-poms, and she was our pom-pom captain.
I sure was.
A little firecracker, and she made sure we were on point. So for those of you who don't know what pom-poms are, it was like a crossbreed between cheerleading and dance.
Right.
And our favorite part was dance, because we really we didn't do much cheering.
No.
We did a little, but not so much.
No, it was more dance and using those pom-poms. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I know one of my podcasts, I did say how pom-poms was one of my releases with a lot of things that were happening in my life. So this platform is what my intentions have been, and I really going to reiterate this, is that I'm not trying to offend anyone. I am not trying to put a wedge into anyone's relationships with anyone else out there. I'm really trying to shine the light on experiences that us as women have gone through in our life that could have held us back from being successful, whether it's success in marriage, as a mom, in business, entrepreneurship, that they say you are a product of your environment. And many times when you're a product of your environment, I say it's an excuse to hold you back from progressing in life, because a lot of people do stay held back because of that. And we have pushed through so much to get to where we are at. And pom-poms was one of the outlets for me when I was going through my stuff. No one knew that when we were going to practice, I haven't even ate. I probably had just one meal that day, if any. And most of the time that one meal was at school. So I'm over here dancing my ass off, running around doing, twerking and all this stuff.
That was what?
It was wild, but and I wasn't eating, and then I didn't have money for a lot of the stuff, like the uniforms or the gym shoes. And I don't know if you ever remember that, but Arlene, which was our pom-pom coach, she helped get my gym shoes, and we all had to get the same gym shoes or whatever, but I didn't have the funds for that. I didn't have funds for food. You really think I was gonna have funds for gym shoes? So with that being said, I went through a lot of trauma, but we kept quiet, but we were all pretty much tight-knit, enjoying the moment with it. So we had not seen each other for a long time.
Yeah,
and we seen each other a few years ago, and you opened up to me with a lot of things that happened in your life. And I was like, I didn't know this. I remember going to your home, and I thought this was you were great.
Right.
I didn't come from a dual parent home. You did. And I was like, oh my God, baby got it. I wish I had what baby had, this is the life or whatever. but I didn't know. They say you don't know what happens behind closed doors and
Sure.
stuff. So, do you want to share? Because I think I talked enough.
Yeah, so dance has always been an outlet for me. I love dance. I think it just brings out so much character and it allows you to change who you are in the moment
Mm-hmm.
and show that different side of you, the charisma and all that. So that has always been an outlet for me, even in my older years. I mean, I tried taking ballet, I want to say like 7 years ago. It was a no-no. It was because I was being taught by like 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds.
Oh my God,
like
yeah. Our
oldest one.
bodies function
I was
differently.
like, slow down, slow down. So that was not a good experience, but I do, anytime I can, I do love to go dancing. I love the release of it.
Mm-hmm.
But during that time, I don't think I yet had figured out that I was going through stuff.
Yeah.
I think that it was facades I was wearing, and only because that's who I knew to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you don't know, you don't know. It wasn't until, okay, let me go backwards a lot. So when I was 7 years old, I was not physically, what is it? I hate this word, molested, okay?
Sexually abused.
Thank you.
Let's say.
Yes. I was sexually abused at 7 years old by 2 family members.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, my little self couldn't comprehend that.
Mm-hmm.
And through the years, I have downplayed the abuse because
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, it could have been worse, or oh, this and that. I know people that it's worse.
Mm-hmm.
So I have downplayed it a lot, and I have forgiven these 2 people, and I truly love them to this day. So that wasn't the issue. I think that what came after that was the issue, the mental state that I was in. And I remember I'm a crier, so
Girl, the napkin, the tissues are right here, so
I'm
feel free. Here you go.
I'll just be right here. I remember being 7 years old, and we were living in Texas at the time. We moved every year. We were chronic movers, which can also really mess with you too.
Yeah.
There's
no foundation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I never had like friends that I grew up with,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really hard for me. So like I remember like at 7 years old, us going into a gas station, and we were driving back to Niles at the time because we were going to Niles, but back to Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And me shoplifting a piece of gum. I don't know. It was some kind of candy because I'm little, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we want. And I remember my parents catching me and telling me I had to go back into the gas station and give it back.
Mm-hmm.
Not knowing that was a start of something, right? Throughout my, I want to say preteen, just young, from that moment on, I would go to stores and take little things, pencils. It was dumb stuff at that time. And again, not realizing why I'm doing it, what's going on. I'm so young. I'm not comprehending on any of this until I got to be 18. I think 17 or 18 is where then the law really comes into play, because they were just slapping. It's like, oh, calling my parents, come pick her up. She took something.
Her up. Yeah, she's
no
too
big
young
deal.
for this, yeah.
Exactly. So like I wasn't taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember my first real arrest. I was 17, and I remember just being numb to it. Remember being in county with real like scary looking people, and just kind of being like this innocent looking girl, like you don't belong here, right? But still not comprehending the drastic this was what I was starting. Basically, I was not comprehending how this was going to follow me,
right?
For years to come. And it did. It followed me for years to come, and I, no lie, legit, because I got my rap sheet not too long ago, probably about a few years ago, and I have 10 arrests. No, probably more than that arrests, but I have 10 felonies.
It's all felonies.
All felonies. 10 felonies, okay?
So it's all from stealing?
Stealing, theft, fraud, in that nature, just all around. And I remember like the judges looking at me and saying, what are you doing here? You know, like I just did not look like I don't know what an average criminal looks like, but like I did not look like I belonged there, right? And throughout those years of me getting arrested and, you know, going to jail, getting probation, they would always put me on mental health probation because they couldn't understand that I wasn't a drug addict or I wasn't an alcoholic. They couldn't understand. It's almost like they wanted me to have another issue in order to have that issue. And it wasn't until they put me on mental health probation that I was mandated to get counseling. It was part of the deal. I had to report that. They had to know who my therapist was. I had to like go to a different like. They were almost like drug classes or alcohol because addiction's addiction, right? So it did apply to me in that sense.
Well, it sounds like it was addicted to shoplifting.
Right. Exactly.
Question, did you have to shoplift these things? Were you financially burdened?
No.
It was just
the
adrenaline from it, maybe?
Adrenaline, I think. And I think of wanting something and not knowing how to obtain it myself. I've always had really good jobs, you know, for my age during that time. Every time I would be arrested, they would find like, not a wad, but enough money on me to have paid for whatever I took. The officers would be like, what are you doing? Like, and I never had an answer. I never had an answer to why, you know? So as I started going to counseling, it started like breaking apart the why, right? Why are you doing this? What is the reason? And that's when it was like, oh, this is an addiction. This is an addictive behavior that I have. And I have now it's controlling me because it was. Like I would wake up, think about it. I would go to bed, think about it. I was preparing for my shoplifting day the next day. Like I would have bags. Like it was a whole job in itself.
Oh, really?
No, it was real. It was real.
I didn't know
that.
It was like that.
It was like that. And I would be shaking every time I do it. Like I would be nervous. And it was just like, why? Why are you doing this? And then eventually it got to the point where they dug so deep into my past, this one therapist. I've had many trial and error therapists throughout the years. Still have one. And it wasn't until she's like, did anything happen to you when you were a kid? And I was like, because I had blocked all that out, the trauma, like the sexual abuse. Like
there's a terminology for it, but I can't think about it right now. But you tend to
and
disassociate from it.
For sure. I never thought the two
correlated.
Yes. So when she asked me that question and I started really thinking back, I'm like, well, you know, when I was 7, this happened. And she's like, that's it. And I was like, wait, what's that? You know, she's like, that's it right there. And I'm like, but the two don't have nothing to do with each other. Like, you know, I couldn't figure, I was kind of confused at how my sexual abuse had to do with my shoplifting addiction, right? And so she's like, no, like everyone has a different way of expressing their trauma. And that was yours. And then I became really angry because all my brothers and sisters, we all got issues, right? You know, and we all have like things that we deal with. But I was like, why is mine like a criminal act? Why do I got to go to jail? Like, why? So like I was really upset with the whole situation itself. I like hated it. I hated it. I hated being called a thief. I hated the term of that because that's what I was, a thief. And throughout I grew up in the church, you know, so this had always been a embarrassment, obviously, with my family, you know, with me. People that I went to church with, people who really know me. So like, it started to become very serious in the sense that like, I wanted to figure it out. And that's when I really, really started seeking therapy on my choice, not the courts. And I really started like digging into who I was because at that point I didn't know who I was. So all those years, I was like, wow, I was like a fake, like a lie, you know, like, and I really, you know, punished myself for that throughout the years. I had 2 small sons, you know, and I always cry for this because I remember my son, the first time I went to prison, I was 19. I did only 60 days, but 60 days is
it feels like an eternity, I'm sure.
It does. And I remember like my son being 1 year old, 1.5, maybe 2, close to, and them opening the cage because in the waiting room, and him running to me like with this like urgency that he hadn't seen his mama, right? And my parents were just tremendous throughout this, and despite their own issues, they really took care of me and my sons during that time. And their father too was very much present. So like I was very blessed that I had people that were rooting for me and that loved me and wanted me to fix it. But my parents, they didn't believe in therapy. So like they didn't think to put me in therapy. They didn't.
I think it's a common thing. And I don't know if I keep on saying it's a Hispanic thing. And I don't know if it's a Hispanic thing, or I don't know if they just don't believe in it because that's what they were taught. They didn't know any better. Or honestly, sometimes some of us couldn't afford therapy because therapy is not a cheap thing.
Yeah. And that could have been it too. They're like, pray to God, or
God was everything that you have to turn and leave all your problems to them. And yeah, I don't know if it's just a Hispanic household or where we come from it's just frowned upon. Like you're not strong enough if you're going to go to counseling or something like that. But that's a common denominator, a common factor with everyone that's coming on that, our parents didn't believe in it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, during that time, I'm not sure I even believed in it.
Yeah.
It took time for me to, because I was embarrassed. So like, you go to therapy and then right away you spit out, oh yeah, I was a thief. And they're like, I had some like really like be taken back by that. And then I'm like, okay, they're not my person. Because you can't connect with me if you're judging me.
Right. And I say, if you have never gone through what I went through, how can you judge me?
Yeah. And
I get that you said, you've gone through trial and error with these therapists. A lot of these therapists have never gone through any of the trauma that we've gone through. So I get that 100%. Like I've did that, even hypnosis that they try to do. And it just didn't resonate with me. I was just like, whatever.
Exactly.
But so you did it at 19, going to jail the first time?
Yeah. So like where I actually like stood in a prison where they like transfer you out of county. You go down to prison. I think it was Decatur at that time, if I remember correctly. And
so just to let everybody know, whoever has never experienced anybody going to jail, and I don't know about in Florida because I think it's done differently, but in Chicago, you do go to county jail first, and you're there for a little while till you go to court. Sometimes you can be there for as little as 30 days, so who knows, 3-4 years later, you're still there at county trying to fight your case. So if you don't have legal representation, you may stay there longer than anybody else, and it depends on your case. So and then once you're in county and you get found guilty for whatever else, they send it out to the state. The state we call, you're in the joint now.
Yeah.
So once you're out in the state, you're far away from the city. You're about maybe an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours away from the city. And a lot of us don't go to see family members because it's too far for us. Or just people just don't want to experience that. I know I experienced it growing up with, family members and stuff. So it's not a easy thing to experience seeing a loved one there.
Exactly.
So once you got sent to the joint, what happened there?
My parents were great. They would bring, at that time I only had Michael. He's now 25.
Is that the one that just had the baby?
He just had a baby.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, he's only 2 months he's not.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, he really went through stuff with me. They say you're oldest, when you're young.
I tell people that's the oldest is the experimental child.
He really went through some stuff with me. But I remember my parents would drive whatever hours to bring them to me, and
how far was Decatur from Chicago?
It's probably like 2 hours. Okay. 2 hours, and I was very blessed in that sense, So after that, I got out in the 60 days. I got married at 20 years old to my son's father. At that time, it didn't like click with me yet still. Yeah. I think I did not do anything for about a good year and a half or two, like
Mhm.
where like I stood away from it. You know what they say is when you're an addict, the first time you pick up is just like you're done after that, right?
Yeah.
So like it really had to be a mental thing for me to not pick up or
Mhm.
go to a store or
Mhm.
in my world, you know. So like I would have these like thoughts all the time, and then I would let them win, and then I would pick up, and then the whole addictive behavior would start all over again.
So, and for a whole year, they say when you have an addictive personality and you let go one addiction, you pick up another. Did it happen to you? Did you pick up a
Not
different addiction?
until this my last round. So all through my 20s, in and out of county, and I was really blessed because they had a program called Sheriff Furlough
Mm-hmm.
where they would take women only,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like having the monitor on your ankle. So
Mm-hmm.
and you're able to go home. And you're able to eventually move up in levels where you can actually get a job while you're dealing with your case.
Oh,
You know,
really?
yeah. So you're not in county through that time.
Mm-hmm.
And because like I was good at faking it till I made it type of thing,
Mm-hmm.
having that facade, I always moved up and I always went on this program and I was able to go home to my kids, you know, so nobody knew I was wearing a anklet
Mm-hmm.
on my ankle, one of those monitors, whatever. But yeah, this is what I did every single time. So all 10
So
plus
you know
of
how to
those,
play the system.
yes.
Basically, well, work the system.
Yes. And so like I never stood for more than a week in
Mm-hmm.
county.
Mm-hmm.
I would go home on that program and then deal with my case. They would sentence me. It was always probation because they never felt like I belonged in prison. But you can only do it so many times where they're like, we're going to make an example out of you, right? So it wasn't until so anyway, throughout the years, I had other things going on. I was very promiscuous as a young girl, curious,
Mm-hmm.
always wanting that control. So like I felt like I had control over men
Mm-hmm.
versus vice versa because I felt and I again learned all through this therapy, learning my characteristics, learning all the things that I thought were normal. I'm just like, oh, I just like to be sexual. No, it's not okay. What you're doing. So all throughout the years, I had to deal with that, and I got divorced at 26 years old to my son's
So
father.
were you being promiscuous while you were married with your your kid's father?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not proud of it. I think that we both were. Like, we weren't faithful. I think we were just very young.
Mm-hmm.
We were very unaware of what loyalty and commitment meant at that time. And it is something that today that I regret in the sense that I didn't do my best.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a perfectionist. So, like, knowing that, like, I didn't do my best in that area really did bother me for many years.
Mm-hmm. But you were struggling with addiction, and
Yep.
being promiscuous is part of another type of addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't talk about that. But
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're going through any emotional roller coaster, I say, as for me, when I went through certain things in my life and I wanted to forget about what was going on, I would be promiscuous. It wasn't like I would do that for a very long time, but it was like stints for me.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like binging.
Yeah.
It's like sexual binge.
Right.
But it's an addictive behavior in some sense.
Mm-hmm.
And when they diagnosed me with bipolar, during my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of really against like medication and all that stuff, although I did try it. And it made me a zombie, and I didn't really like the way that felt.
That's why Kanye West doesn't take medication. He says he feels like a zombie, and it stops him from being so artistic. And I get that because my ex-husband was like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he didn't like being on it. He hated the feeling of being on any medication
because they kind of said you have this like manic.
Yeah.
To you,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when I would do these like binges of shoplifting, like, and then I would stop, and it was like then I would go into like this depression, where like that didn't satisfy me. So now here I am.
Anyone that doesn't know about bipolar disorder is manic depressive. Manic depressive means that there's manic stages, and these manic stages is when you're like very high,
Mm-hmm.
and you can have all this energy to do so many things, and you will do things that you won't recall you've done in this manic stages. People even go through insomnia when you're going through a manic stage. And these insomnias, it will can cause hallucination as well in that process. Once you go back to being yourself, where you're not longer in this manic stages, then you're yourself, and then you find out what you've done in these manic stages. And sometimes these things that you've done are not very healthy and can cause embarrassment to yourself, and they're against what you known to be, and whatever it is that can cause you to fall into a depression because you're ashamed of what you've done to yourself and to your loved ones. Then you'll fall into a depression, and you can't stay there. So for a while, manic, you can stay there for like a week to months. Depression, you can stay there from a week to months. So that's how manic depressive works. And I'm not an expert. This is from my experience and learning it from what I've gone through with my ex-husband, that I had to really learn how to forgive him when he was in these manic stages because he had no control of himself. So
you're right on.
So it was a lot of learning that, and a lot of forgiving him in this process, because there was a lot of things that he didn't recall doing. So is that what you did go through with manic? Is when you're really like shoplifting? Is when you're
like at where, like I said, it was like a job. Like I would be going on these like
and
binges.
it's now I understand it, because you say you don't know why you did it. And that was a lot of the times what he would say, I don't know why I did it. I don't know. I don't remember doing it, or I don't know why I did it. So it was hard for me to believe that for a long time, until I sat down with a counselor, and he had to explain that to me. And being promiscuous is one of them that's in there. And I don't know to this day if he was like that, if he entertained many women while we're together. I don't know, because I never dug that deep. But I know when I went through my stuff, I went through that. And
yeah. So, I think the respect was kind of gone with me and my ex-husband. And we got to a point where, I got to a point, to be honest, where I was like, I don't want to live like this for the rest of my life, where I don't feel this connection to this husband of mine, right?
Yeah.
My sons are watching this. At that time, I had Angel at 22, so Michael at 19, Angel at 22. And I just really was like, this is not a way to live.
Right.
And so fast forward, we separated. My sons still were going back and forth, to their dad, and we always lived near each other. We were always in the boy's life, get into my 30s, early 30s. So for those like years, 26 to 30, I was just out there kind of bad, like kind of just trying to find myself, because here now I felt like I was married or in a relationship for all those years from
so now you just want to go.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, right. And it got to a point where I got old, the partying, the drinking, and I got very lonely, and being alone with myself would cause me to do things, right?
Yeah.
And my family would always say, when I would like disappear, in a sense, like I would like not talk to them as much. They knew that I was up to it again.
Yeah.
Because I would be ashamed, obviously. So like I didn't want to be around them, because I had to fake it, right? I had to fake what I was doing. I was wearing like designer things. They know I didn't have a job like that. So like, where are you getting this stuff? So like I had to explain myself, and so I would just stay away. At one point, they actually had an intervention for me, all my siblings, and they all wrote me letters. I still have those letters to this day, and just trying to like get me to acknowledge that I was doing it again. And I was just like, I had I didn't care attitude,
Did you, in this whole process, did you have any issues with drugs or anything like that?
No,
or that was
not
nothing?
At all. I mean, I was always a drinker. And sometimes I would take it too far, but not to the point where like I need it. I don't felt like liquor was ever an addiction for me. It was a way to help me to relax. And that's how I
You were
took it.
self-medicating with alcohol.
Yes. So I can be kind of not so uptight and so like free, and not be thinking about all the things that I'm doing wrong.
You numb yourself. You're trying to numb yourself. Yeah.
So 30 came around and still doing my, oh no, I'm sorry. 29 came around and got caught again. And they were like, okay, you're going to go to prison for longer time. So this time around, that was 2009. I went for 4 months. So I had to turn myself in 4 months. I think I was at Dwight at first, and then they sent me to, oh man, I don't know the other one, Dixon.
So how long were you? For 4 months?
For 4 months. So, yep. So that was the longest. That was the hardest. I took that time to really like connect with God again because I was done. I was really done with this madness of a life that I was living. That last one, or maybe the one before, no, I'm fast forwarding. So I was really done. And I just kind of like, I remember like saying, God, take this away from me. I don't even want it anymore. I don't need it anymore. I was just so done. And I didn't know how to get rid of it. I had been in really, really toxic relationship at that time. A 5-year toxic relationship, abusive, mentally, verbally, physically. I was that girl that would come with a black eye and be like, oh, I fell down the stairs. Some crap like that. Oh, wow. Bloody nose. I was that girl, and I was so disappointed in myself and who I had become, but he became my drug. He became the one I wanted to fix. And like, I was like, he has to love me at the end of all this. Look at everything that I am enduring for him. So all these things are playing and in the background, I'm still stealing. I'm still doing all these things. I was a mess, a very hot mess. And I remember just crying and saying, God, take this all away from me. Like, I don't want it anymore. I don't want this man anymore. Like, I'm done with him. And my knight in shining armor came around, my husband today. And little backstory, I've known him since I was 15. He was really into like gangs back then, and I was like a good girl compared, right? Yeah. And he was like the guy like I would see every once in a while, kick it to, and then go back to my fake life, I guess you would say, my fake life. But like, we were going to church, so it was just a different life than him. He would have been not somebody that I would have said, that's who I'm going to marry.
That's who I want to marry. That's the man of my dreams. Yeah.
We met each other or ran into each other in a club at 30, and he was there celebrating. He was living out here, actually, in Orlando, because his parents had moved out here.
Is he from Chicago?
Yeah. From Logan Square.
Okay.
And he was living out here, but he was there visiting, and he was there for a cousin's birthday, and I was there with my friends for a birthday. And I remember, like, it was just so meant to be, because the girl who introduced us way back when at 15 was there too separately.
Oh, wow.
It was a weird dynamic. So she comes and she's like, hey, I'm with different friends. She's with different friends. He's with different friends, And she's like, hey, guess who's here? We call him Goosey. She's like, guess who's here, Goosey? And I'm like, no way. I hadn't seen him in 15 years.
Yeah.
I was like, no way. Wow. So I go say hi to him. That's when MySpace was around.
Oh, God.
We exchanged our MySpaces, and it's been one since. And he actually moved back in 2009.
And when was this?
This was 2009, so right after I got out of prison.
Oh, wow.
So I am newly renewed, I would say. I didn't pick up or steal for a good, I want to say 2 or 3 years again. It was almost like 2 years was like my
your
limits.
cutoff.
Yeah. And so here I have this new man. He's too good to be true. But I brought a lot of damage to that relationship early on because I had been cheated on. I had been in this abusive relationship.
You didn't heal from all of that, and you went into another relationship. Yeah.
So he really took the brunt of a lot of my issues, early on, and like I couldn't although I prayed for exactly what I got, a kind, respectful, that loves me emotionally. I don't need someone financially. I need someone to love me emotionally. All this stuff. And he's literally was that. And then I'm like, okay, what's going on? This is too good to be true. And I was sabotaging.
I was going to say you self-sabotaged.
Yes, early on.
I think it's a lot of girls from our neighborhood. We feel like we don't deserve that Prince Charming. We've seen a lot of women go through so much with their spouse. whether it's abuse or whatever it is, that you think that that's what love's supposed to be. And yeah, because I know I self-sabotage when it comes to relationships, and especially with the one that I'm in right now. I feel sorry for him at times, but thank you for sticking around. But I get that. So when you guys started talking again, did he know about what you were going through prior to him?
Yes. I was an open book at that time because I was like, because a prior relationship I opened up and he was like, he's like, no, I don't want to deal with that kind of drama. My background, my criminal, all that. So like, I was like, well, then the next person is going to love me for who I am, all my flaws, everything. And so like, I was really honest with him early on and he knew everything. And I even, you know, literally the abuse that I went through and just everything. I wanted him to love me for who I was. And that was really big. And people would tell me, oh, you're those kind of men don't exist. And I'd be like, then I don't want a man.
Right.
Like, you know, if being kind, the simple things like that, being respectful.
Those kind of men do exist. And that's what people, young ladies, those men do exist. I have a man right now that literally, if I have the straw next to the cup, he's the one that puts the straw inside my water. And I'm like,
gestures.
Yes. And I go to look for the straw. It's already in there. He'll tell me, stay in your lane. I'm like, okay. But they're there. Like, yes, ladies, wait. Do not settle for someone just because you want someone to be in your life. There's someone out there that's going to treat you like a princess and a queen.
For sure. And here we are 14 years later, and he's consistent. He still loves me the same as if it was the beginning. That for him, that honeymoon stage has not gone away. Now, I have struggled, you know, with, you know, the mental illness never goes away.
Yeah. I was going to say, being a manic depressive.
Yeah.
Having that illness, not being that, but having that illness, you disconnect sometimes and it's hard to reconnect with that person.
And he doesn't get it because he doesn't deal with it. And I have to actually like say, when you see me really quiet, worry.
Yeah.
No, it's a real thing. And he's like, but I don't know what to do for you. And I'm like, I go, maybe just hug me or grab me. Then I get very like, don't touch me. And he's, unfortunately, he pays for a lot of my.
And it comes off as, for us, it comes off as you don't want that affection from us. You don't want us. You don't. And there's sometimes, I don't know if this has happened to you, that you don't want anything sexually either. And that comes off on us like you don't want us.
Yes.
We don't realize that it's something you're going through. And I had to struggle with that for a very long time. And that was one of the reasons why I separated the first time from my ex-husband. And I couldn't understand it. And as much as I asked him, it was like the more I asked him what was going on, it was more that he retreated from me.
For sure.
And I wasn't 100% educated with all of that back then. Like, I was still struggling because you struggle with, okay, they're battling with this mental illness. This is not them, but at the same time, you're human and you're not understanding why can't you just love me?
Yeah.
So I get that. And you did say that 2 years into it, you went ahead and went and stole again, right? So did you go, while you're in this relationship, have you had to go back to prison for?
No. So I've gone to the counties, right? And again, slaps on the wrist. They gave me my last.
Even with being with him, though? Oh, wow.
So this last one was 2012. The last one was 2012. And I remember this was the hardest one because I'm very wise at this point of who I am, you know? So now I'm really battling with like just some real like the angel and the devil on one shoulder. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
So I have like this one talking to me, this one saying, no, you've grown, you've done all this, you know.
So 2012, we're about what? 32, 33, 32?
Yeah.
Because you were born 79?
79.
Yeah, you're a year older than me. Okay.
Yeah. And so, and I remember me being in the county and me calling him or while I was in there and him saying, I can't do this. I can't do this. My heart can't take it. That, you know, men want to be able to protect you and like save you from situations, right? And he couldn't. He was powerless, right? And he's like, if you do this again, like I can't. Like I won't be here. And prior to that, I had stole a pair of shoes. It was so dumb. It was like $25. It was so dumb. But I remember that it really was like getting to a point where like it was getting scary. And my sons were with me. I never done that.
Oh, wow.
Never brought them along for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
But this time I did. And then took these shoes, and they had to watch me go in a police car. You know, it's like a movie.
Mm-hmm.
The back, and you see your kids just sobbing.
Mm-hmm.
And I never forget that picture because I was like, what am I doing? These are my boys. Why can't I change for them? I never understood why I couldn't change for my sons. And then I struggled with the fact that this new man is saying he's going to leave, and I want to get it together. And I'm like, oh my God, I can change for him, but not my son. So then I'm struggling with that. But what people don't understand, that I was already at my ends and wanted to change. And God brings people in your life to sometimes just wake you up, right? And make you, he was the one that made me feel like I was valuable. Although my sons are there, I was not feeling that worth and being valued. So he was like telling me, I want you, like, you know, like, let's fix this. So he was a big part in me stopping. They let me off. What a blessing. They let me off a mental health again. I had to seek counseling, but it was a 4-year probation, very long. And I remember going through that whole thing and the probation, and I was pregnant with the girls. I have 8-year-old twin girls, as you know.
They're so beautiful. They're
Thank
so
you.
cute.
And I remember they were born in April of 2015, and I was so it was 3-year probation. And I remember going to my last meeting, and with a big old belly, and I think it was like a month before, and feeling this like relief that I would be done before my daughters would be born. But what are we on? 20? So what is that? 11 years? Nothing. I have stood away from it.
Congratulations.
Now, thank you. But it has been a struggle, a mental struggle.
Yeah.
Because my body and my mind were used to acting a certain way, and I had to totally transform who I was. So what I did was I got busy. I got busy doing productive things. I went back to school, college, got my degree. Took me 6.5 years to get my bachelor's and 1.5 years to get my master's. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So I got my business degree, and then I decided to do my master's in psychology, and people are like, those don't mix. I'm like, oh, but they do.
Oh, yes, they do.
I'm like, oh, but they do. And I love dealing with my issues. Psychology was just very intriguing to me. So like I wanted to do something I was passionate about.
Yeah.
I felt like the business and the accounting was like my stability, right? And I wanted to kind of like do something that was going to make me want to learn, you know, not I have to learn. But I do believe that psychology, I think everybody should take that class. We deal with people on a daily basis. If you're in the business world,
my psychology classes were awesome. Like you're really learning a lot about the brain. But when I didn't take after my master's, like I had the two masters, and I should have done one of them at least in psychology, because it would have helped me with my ex-husband. But I had to learn a lot on my own, going through what I went through with him and sitting down with his counselor or his psychologist and psychiatrist for a very long time to learn it. But yeah, it really does correlate with one another. Like there is psychology classes specific for business.
Oh yeah.
Psychology, you have to, when you're selling something in business and you're dealing with business people, you got to read their body language, know what they're thinking, how they're thinking, the tone, so that you know how to work that. I know how to do it out of default because of what I went through growing up with my mom. I had to learn what her tone of voice and how her body language, her moods growing up. So I can see, although I didn't, go through seeing her going to jail or anything like that. But I do think to this day that my mom suffers from a mental illness, and being that child from that, it takes a toll. So right now, I know you have your 2 oldest boys and your 2 little ones. How are your boys with you? Have they had to go through their own counseling for it? Do they?
So I have been very blessed with that. They are, obviously they go through their own, everyone has issues, right?
Yeah.
Mentally. And I think it's just how you
approach it.
Yeah, thank you. But they could have been so worse off. They could have hated me.
Yeah.
And they would have had every right to.
Yeah.
Right? I left them a lot. My parents were And thank goodness for their father. He would pick up the slack in those moments where I was not mentally there and gone. And I have, like, in recent years, have thanked him for that. I could have had a horrible ex-husband.
Yeah.
That would have badmouthed me and to my sons, and he didn't. He truly wanted me to get better. He saw what everybody else saw that I hadn't seen yet. This potential, right? And so, like, my sons are awesome and amazing, and they actually are inspired by me because they've seen me, what I've gone through, and have seen how I have worked hard to be who I am today. And I look back, and I had a lot of shame over it, and I look back and I don't no more, because it's my story. And what in return, God made it a beautiful thing where now they can know that, you know what, times are going to get tough. Mine were crazy, but, like, you can fix it. You can get back up. You can make something of yourself. There's no excuse. People told me early on that I was never going to get a good job, that I was never going to amount to anything. I have 10 freaking felonies. Like, who does that? You know? And so, like, I feel like I was like, oh yeah, really? Okay, tell me I can't. Now, don't get me wrong. It was a struggle. I had to work and prove my success for people to see past my past. And so I have gotten fired from jobs when they found out my background. I have got denied for jobs once they go and put that background check through. So I have gone through those rejections, but those rejections only made me push harder, because I was like,
it steers you to where you really need to be.
Yeah. I was like, someone's gonna see me for my worth ethic, because I am a hard worker, my experience, and not that. That doesn't define me.
So can you get any of that expunged now because of your mental illness?
So during COVID year, 2020, I can't get it expunged because they're felonies, but I can get them sealed, which just means that
they can't.
Employers can't see me. Federal jobs and all that can, but employers are not able to see it. And it's crazy, the blessings. So you have to go to each courthouse. So, like, I shoplifted everywhere, you know, so, like, Cook County, DuPage, wherever I was at. So I would have to go to each courthouse and fill out paperwork. It took a whole day, long day of doing all this. And the smaller ones did get sealed quickly, but Cook County took forever. Go figure.
Hello.
And just last year, okay, so this has been going on since 2020, they didn't want to. They sent a letter saying, well, it was something in the sense of, like, there's too much to seal. And then so I had somebody defending me on my behalf, like a lawyer, and she's like, right, get some letters of recommendations, let's fight it, I did all that. I had all these letters, you know, my friends and church and my jobs and and then right when I'm ready to send them, she's like, oh, you know what, they just sealed it. They don't feel like you need to come in with all that. And I was like, but you know what that showed me? That God said, stop proving yourself.
Yeah.
And he did that when I got the job that I have now. So for all you don't know, I have like 5 jobs. No.
She's always working.
So, like, I'm an accountant by day. I work for a company, but they're very flexible, and, you know, and I'm able to kind of maneuver around as I want to. But anyways, when I got that job, it was temp to hire, and this was in 2019 end of 2019, and she told me she was gonna get a background check, and I started to panic because I had applied for a job literally a weeks before that one, and they saw my background. So, and I remember God tugging at my heart and telling me, tell them the truth, be truthful, you know, and being so nervous, and because I had never, like, just came out to an employer and said I would just wait for them to find out, and then they'll make a decision, So I remember going in on a Friday. It was before the holidays, and just being honest with them, my 2 bosses at that time, and crying, and they're like, well, how long has it been? I'm like, at that time, it was like 7 years roughly. And they're like, okay. They're like, no. And I had only been working there like 2 months. So really, in those 2 months, I busted my butt so they can see my worth ethic, right? And they did. And that was enough for them. They're like, okay, corporate's going to give us an answer. If it comes back with it, then we'll vouch for you. You know, like, they were on my side because it was really up to corporate. I'm panicking, waiting for that background check to come back. I kid you not, Janelle. I kid you not. My record has been erased.
Oh, nice. So like, everything was sealed and nothing shows.
No, because I hadn't done that yet.
Oh, no?
I hadn't done that yet. So like, and when that background check came back with nothing found, I was on my knees crying. It was Christmas Eve, and I remember yelling to my husband, "Oh my God, oh my God," you know. And I remember saying, "God literally just wiped my slate clean," like they say, you know. Like I have been renewed. This is no longer. It's almost like he needed. I felt his guidance through that whole process, but he knew that I needed to be feel that worth, you know, and it was exactly what I had been saying all those years. Somebody's going to see me for who I am today, not for my past. And that's exactly how it played out. So I have since then have many background checks done because I need it for my notary. I need it for the insurance business that I'm in, you know, and nothing shows up. Well, now it's been sealed, but like even before then, like I had to maybe like 2 or 3 more because I'm like, let me check again, you know, and nope, nothing's there. And I'm like, is God that powerful? I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe he is. I have the proof, the stack of my rap sheet. So like I know I did this stuff.
Yeah.
But here I am, my slate wiped clean. So I have seen the blessings of my hard work and my persistence and my commitment to allow God to change me and allow him to really transform me into who he knows me to be, which is worthy. And when I look back at all those like arrests and all those times, like I would see loss prevention following me and drop the bag, but then go out the next day and do the same. Like those were my warnings. Those were him telling me, you know?
So with all that, because they're already telling me we need to wrap it up.
I know.
I lost my train of thought because I seen that how it was. We've been here for quite a while, almost an hour already, and it's been a whirlwind for you.
Yeah.
And even with all of that, your job being a notary in the insurance industry, being an accountant, and being an accountant is not the easiest thing ever because especially tax season is hard.
Online clothing store.
That's where I was gonna get. And she also is an entrepreneur. That she owns an online clothing store called Gracefully Broken, and I am so proud of her that she's doing all of this. I know her and I spoke when she first wanted to open it up about, you know, doing the business plan and everything else. So it's just amazing to see that you've gone through all of this and you're not letting it hold you back from any of that. And I'm sure your girls are going to look up to you and see that they don't have to experience what your boys went through with you, but they're going to know those stories once they get older, I'm sure, and see and be very proud of you with all of it. So, and this is what we're doing so that way other girls and young ladies and women, it's possible. You don't need to let what you've gone through hold you back. Is it going to be an easy road? No, not at all. But you can do it and you can get there. And you're a living testament of that. And I am so proud of you, Vanessa.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And thank you for coming out here. Really, really thank you for coming out here and joining me for this. I was excited to see that you were going to be in town. I was like, yes, do you want to be on? So I was so excited when you said yes that you were going to be on. So I'm really grateful for you being here. But this is where we have to wrap it up. I know if you look at this, you're gonna be like, man, I should have said something else. Sure. I've been telling everybody else, like, this is just the beginning. If you want to come back, just let me know. I will have you back. I think we can do it virtually. My producer's saying, we can do it virtually. I've never done it virtually. But we're going to wrap it up here. And before I finish, where can my audience find you?
So I'm on Instagram at Gracefully Broken store. Also on Facebook at Gracefully Broken, and you can find me on those platforms for sure. And and
once I post this too, I'll tag your store on there because I do follow you, of course. So I'll tag your store. So if anybody wants to check out her merchandise, you're able to go on there and check it out.
Absolutely. Thank
you. And again, thank you so much. And for everybody else out there, thank you for tuning in. And until next time.